Deuteronomy 5. And Moses summoned all of Israel, and he said to them, Listen, O Israel, to the ceremonies and judgments, which I am speaking to your ears on this day. Learn them, and fulfill them indeed. The Lord our God formed a covenant with us at Horeb. He did not make the covenant with our fathers, but with us, who are alive and in the present time. He spoke to us face to face on the mountain, from the midst of fire. I was the mediator, for I was in the middle between the Lord and you, at that time, to announce his words to you. For you were afraid of the fire, and so you did not ascend to the mountain. And he said, I am the Lord your God, who led you away from the land of Egypt, from the house of servitude. You shall not have strange gods in my sight. You shall not make for yourself a graven image, nor the likeness of anything, which is in heaven above, or on earth below, or which abides in the waters under the earth. You shall not adore and you shall not worship these things. For I am the Lord your God, a jealous God, repaying the iniquity of the fathers upon the sons to the third and fourth generation to those who hate me, and acting with mercy in thousands of ways to those who love me and keep my precepts. You shall not use the name of the Lord your God in vain. For he will not go unpunished who takes up his name over an unimportant matter. Observe the day of the Sabbath, so that you may sanctify it, just as the Lord your God has instructed you. For 6 days, you shall labor and do all your work. The seventh is the day of the Sabbath, that is, the rest of the Lord your God. You shall not do any work in it, nor shall your son, nor daughter, nor manservant, nor womanservant, nor ox, nor donkey, nor any of your cattle, nor the sojourner who is within your gates, so that your men and women servants may rest, just as you do. Remember that you also were servants in Egypt, and the Lord your God led you away from that place with a strong hand and an outstretched arm. Because of this, he has instructed you so that you would observe the Sabbath day. Honor your father and mother, just as the Lord your God has instructed you, so that you may live a long time, and so that it may be well with you in the land, which the Lord your God will give to you. You shall not murder. And you shall not commit adultery. And you shall not commit theft. Neither shall you speak false testimony against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, nor his house, nor his field, nor his manservant, nor his womanservant, nor his ox, nor his donkey, nor anything out of all that is his. The Lord spoke these words to the entire multitude of you on the mountain, from the midst of the fire and the cloud and the darkness, with a loud voice, adding nothing more. And he wrote them on 2 tablets of stone, which he delivered to me. Then, after you heard a voice from the midst of the darkness, and you saw the mountain burning, you approached me, all you leaders of the tribes and those greater by birth. And you said, Behold, the Lord our God has revealed to us his majesty and his greatness. We have heard his voice from the midst of fire, and we have proven today that, though God is speaking with man, man has lived. Therefore, why should we die, and why should this very great fire devour us? For if we hear the voice of the Lord our God any longer, we will die. What is all flesh, that it would hear the voice of the living God, who speaks from the midst of fire, just as we have heard it, and be able to live? Instead, you should approach and listen to all the things that the Lord our God will say to you. And you will speak to us, and we will listen and do these things. But when the Lord had heard this, he said to me, I have heard the voice of the words of this people, which they spoke to you. All this, they have spoken well. Who will grant to them to have such a mind, so that they may fear me, and may keep all my commandments at all times, so that it may be well with them and with their sons forever? Go and say to them, Return to your tents. But as for you, stand here with me, and I will speak to you all my commandments and ceremonies, as well as judgments. These, you shall teach them, so that they may do them in the land, which I will give to them as a possession. And so, keep and do the things which the Lord God has commanded you. You shall not turn aside, neither to the right, nor to the left. For you shall walk in the way that the Lord your God has instructed, so that you may live, and it may be well with you, and your days may be extended in the land of your possession. Deuteronomy 6. These are the precepts and ceremonies, as well as the judgments, which the Lord your God has commanded that I teach to you, which you shall do in the land to which you will travel in order to possess it. So may you fear the Lord your God, and keep all his commandments and precepts, which I am entrusting to you, and to your sons and grandsons, all the days of your life, so that your days may be prolonged. Listen and observe, O Israel, so that you may do just as the Lord has instructed you, and it may be well with you, and you may be multiplied all the more, for the Lord, the God of your fathers, has promised you a land flowing with milk and honey. Listen, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your strength. And these words, which I instruct to you this day, shall be in your heart. And you shall explain them to your sons. And you shall meditate upon them sitting in your house, and walking on a journey, when lying down and when rising up. And you shall bind them like a sign on your hand, and they shall be placed and shall move between your eyes. And you shall write them at the threshold and on the doors of your house. And when the Lord your God will have led you into the land, about which he swore to your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and when he will have given to you great and excellent cities, which you did not build, houses full of goods, which you did not amass, cisterns, which you did not dig, vineyards and olive groves, which you did not plant. And when you will have eaten and been satisfied, take care diligently, lest you forget the Lord, who led you away from the land of Egypt, from the house of servitude. You shall fear the Lord your God, and you shall serve him alone, and you shall swear by his name. You shall not go after the strange gods of all the Gentiles, who are around you. For the Lord your God is a jealous God in your midst. Otherwise, at some time, the fury of the Lord your God may be enraged against you, and he may take you away from the face of the earth. You shall not tempt the Lord your God, as you tempted him in the place of temptation. Keep the precepts of the Lord your God, as well as the testimonies and ceremonies, which he has instructed to you. And do what is pleasing and good in the sight of the Lord, so that it may be well with you, and so that, when you enter, you may possess the excellent land, about which the Lord swore to your fathers, that he would wipe away all your enemies before you, just as he has spoken. And when your son will ask you tomorrow, saying, What do these testimonies and ceremonies and judgments mean, which the Lord our God has entrusted to us? You shall say to him, We were servants of Pharaoh in Egypt, and the Lord led us away from Egypt with a strong hand. And he wrought signs and wonders, great and very grievous, in Egypt, against Pharaoh and all his house, in our sight. And he led us away from that place, so that he might lead us in and give us the land, about which he swore to our fathers. And the Lord instructed us that we should do all these ordinances, and that we should fear the Lord our God, so that it may be well with us all the days of our life, just as it is today. And he will be merciful to us, if we keep and perform all his precepts, in the sight of the Lord our God, just as he has commanded us. Deuteronomy 7. When the Lord your God will have led you to the land, which you will enter so as to possess it, and when he will have destroyed many nations before you, the Hittite, and the Girgashite, and the Amorite, and the Canaanite, and the Perizzite, and the Hivite, and the Jebusite, 7 nations much more numerous than you, and more robust than you. And when the Lord your God will have delivered them to you, you shall strike them down unto utter annihilation. You shall not enter into a pact with them, nor shall you show any pity to them. And you shall not associate with them in marriage. You shall not give your daughter to his son, nor accept his daughter for your son. For she will seduce your son, so that he will not follow me, and so that you will instead serve foreign gods. And the fury of the Lord will be enraged, and he will quickly destroy you. So instead, you shall do this to them, overturn their altars, and break their statues, and cut down their sacred groves, and burn up their graven images. For you are a holy people to the Lord your God. The Lord your God has chosen you so that you would be his particular people out of all the peoples who are upon the earth. It is not because you surpass all the nations in number that the Lord has joined with you and has chosen you, for you are the least numerous of any people. But it is because the Lord has loved you, and has kept his oath, which he swore to your fathers. And he has led you away with a strong hand, and he has redeemed you from the house of servitude, from the hand of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. And you shall know that the Lord your God himself is a strong and faithful God, preserving his covenant and his mercy for those who love him and those who keep his precepts for 1,000 generations. And promptly repaying those who hate him, so as to utterly ruin them, without further delay, quickly rendering to them what they deserve. Therefore, keep the precepts and ceremonies as well as the judgments, which I command to you this day, so that you may do them. If, after you have heard these judgments, you keep and do them, the Lord your God will also keep his covenant with you and the mercy that he swore to your fathers. And he will love you and multiply you. And he will bless the fruit of your womb, and the fruit of your land, your grain as well as your vintage, oil, and herds, and the flocks of your sheep, upon the land about which he swore to your fathers that he would give it to you. Blessed shall you be among all peoples. No one will be barren among you of either gender, as much among men as among your herds. The Lord will take all sickness away from you. And the very grievous infirmities of Egypt, which you have known, he will not bring upon you, but upon your enemies. You shall devour all the peoples, which the Lord your God will deliver to you. Your eye shall not spare them, neither shall you serve their gods, lest they be your ruin. If you say in your heart, these nations are more than I am, so how will I be able to destroy them? Do not be apprehensive. Instead, recall what the Lord your God did to Pharaoh and to all the Egyptians. The very great plagues, which your eyes saw, and the signs and wonders, and the powerful hand and outstretched arm, by which the Lord your God led you away. So will he do to all the peoples, whom you dread. Moreover, the Lord your God will also send hornets among them, until he destroys and scatters all who have escaped from you, or who have been able to hide. You shall not fear them, for the Lord your God is in your midst, a great and terrible God. He himself will consume these nations in your sight, a little at a time, by degrees. You will not be able to destroy them all at once. Otherwise, the wild beasts of the earth might increase against you. And so, the Lord your God will present them in your sight, and you shall slay them until they are thoroughly wiped away. And he shall deliver their kings into your hands, and you shall abolish their names from under heaven. No one will be able to withstand you, until you crush them. Their graven images, you shall burn with fire. You shall not covet the silver or gold from which they have been made. And you shall not take for yourself anything from these, lest you offend, because this is an abomination to the Lord your God. Neither shall you carry anything of the idol into your house, lest you become accursed, just as it also is. You shall detest it like dung, and you shall abominate it like defilement and filth, because it is an accursed thing. Deuteronomy 8. All the commandments which I am entrusting to you this day, take care to observe them diligently, so that you may live and be multiplied, and so that, upon entering, you may possess the land, about which the Lord swore to your fathers. And you shall remember the entire journey along which the Lord your God led you, for 40 years through the desert, to afflict you, and to test you, and to make known the things that were turning in your soul, whether or not you would keep his commandments. He afflicted you with need, and he gave you manna as your food, which neither you nor your fathers knew, so as to reveal to you that it is not by bread alone that man lives, but by every word that goes forth from the mouth of God. Your garment, with which you were covered, has by no means decayed due to age, and your foot has not been worn down, even to this 40th year. So that you would recognize in your heart that, just as a man educates his son, so has the Lord your God educated you. So may you keep the commandments of the Lord your God, and walk in his ways, and fear him. For the Lord your God will lead you into a good land, a land of brooks and waters and fountains, in which deep rivers burst forth from its plains and mountains. A land of crops, barley, and vineyards, in which fig and pomegranate and olive trees spring up, a land of oil and honey. In that place, without any need, you shall eat your bread and enjoy an abundance of all things, where the stones are like iron, and where ore for brass is dug out of its mountains. So then, when you have eaten and been satisfied, you should bless the Lord your God for the excellent land which he has given to you. Be observant and cautious, lest at some time you may forget the Lord your God, and neglect his commandments, as well as the judgments and ceremonies, which I instruct to you this day. Otherwise, after you have eaten and been satisfied, and have built beautiful houses and have lived in them, and have obtained herds of oxen, and flocks of sheep, and a plenitude of gold and silver and all things, your heart might be lifted up, and you might not remember the Lord your God, who led you away from the land of Egypt, from the house of servitude, and who was your leader in the great and terrible wilderness, in which there was the serpent with a burning breath, and the scorpion, and the snake of thirst, and no waters at all. He led streams out of the hardest rock. And he nourished you in the wilderness with manna, which your fathers had not known. And after he had afflicted and tested you, in the very end, he took pity on you. Otherwise, you might say in your heart, my own strength, and the power of my own hand, have brought forth all these things for me. But remember the Lord your God, that he himself has provided you with strength, so that he may fulfill his covenant, about which he swore to your fathers, just as the present day reveals. But if you forget the Lord your God, so that you follow foreign gods, and serve and adore them, behold, I now foretell to you that you shall utterly perish. Just like the nations, which the Lord destroyed upon your arrival, so shall you also perish, if you have been disobedient to the voice of the Lord your God. Deuteronomy 9. Listen, O Israel, you shall cross over the Jordan today, in order to possess nations, very great and stronger than yourself, cities vast and walled even to the sky. A people great and lofty, the sons of the Anakim, whom you yourselves have seen and heard, against whom no one is able to stand. Therefore, you shall know today that the Lord your God himself will pass over before you, like a devouring and consuming fire, to crush and to wipe away and to utterly ruin them before your face, quickly, just as he has spoken to you. You should not say in your heart, when the Lord your God will have destroyed them in your sight, it is because of my justice that the Lord led me in, so that I might possess this land, while these nations have been destroyed because of their impiety. For it is not because of your justice or the uprightness of your heart that you will enter, so that you may possess their lands. Instead, it is because they have acted wickedly that they are destroyed upon your arrival, and so that the Lord may accomplish his word, which he promised under oath to your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Therefore, know that the Lord your God will not give you this excellent land as a possession due to your justices, for you are a very stiff-necked people. Remember, and never forget, how you provoked the Lord your God to anger in the wilderness. You have always contended against the Lord, from the day that you went forth from Egypt, even to this place. For at Horeb also, you provoked him, and, becoming angry, he was willing to destroy you. When I ascended onto the mountain, so that I might receive the tablets of stone, the tablets of the covenant which the Lord formed with you. And I persevered on the mountain for 40 days and nights, neither eating bread, nor drinking water. And the Lord gave me 2 tablets of stone, written with the finger of God and containing all the words that he spoke to you on the mountain from the midst of fire, while the people, being stirred up, were assembled together. And when 40 days, and as many nights, had passed, the Lord gave me the 2 tablets of stone, the tablets of the covenant. And he said to me, Rise up, and descend quickly from here. For your people, whom you led away from Egypt, have quickly abandoned the way that you have shown to them, and they have made a molten idol for themselves. And again, the Lord said to me, I discern that this people is stiff-necked. Depart from me, so that I may crush them, and abolish their name from under heaven, and appoint you over a nation, which will be greater and stronger than this one. And as I was descending from the burning mountain, and I held the 2 tablets of the covenant with both hands. And I had seen that you had sinned against the Lord your God, and had made a molten calf for yourselves, and had quickly abandoned his way, which he had revealed to you. I threw down the tablets from my hands, and I broke them in your sight. And I fell prostrate before the Lord, just as before, for 40 days and nights, not eating bread, and not drinking water, because of all your sins, which you had committed against the Lord, and because you provoked him to anger. For I feared his indignation and wrath, which had been stirred up against you, so that he was willing to destroy you. And the Lord heeded me at this time also. Likewise, he became vehemently angry against Aaron, and he was willing to destroy him, and I prayed for him similarly. But as for your sin which you committed, that is, the calf, taking hold of it, I burned it with fire. And breaking it into pieces, and reducing it entirely to dust, I threw it into the torrent that descends from the mountain. Likewise, at the burning, and at the temptation, and at the graves of lust, you provoked the Lord. And when he sent you from Kadesh Barnea, saying, Ascend and possess the land, which I have given to you, even so, you spurned the command of the Lord your God, and you did not believe him, nor were you willing to listen to his voice. Instead, you were ever rebellious, from the day when I first began to know you. And so, I lay prostrate before the Lord for 40 days and nights, as I humbly begged him, lest he destroy you, just as he had threatened to do. And praying, I said, O Lord God, do not destroy your people and your inheritance, whom you have redeemed in your greatness, whom you have led away from Egypt with a strong hand. Remember your servants, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Do not look upon the stubbornness of this people, nor upon their wickedness and sinfulness. Otherwise, perhaps the inhabitants of the land, out of which you have led us, may say, The Lord was not able to lead them into the land, which he promised to them. And he hated them, therefore, he led them out, so that he might put them to death in the wilderness. These are your people and your inheritance, whom you have led out by your great strength, and with your outstretched arm. Deuteronomy 10. At that time, the Lord said to me, Hear for yourself 2 tablets of stone, like those that were before, and ascend to me on the mountain. And you shall make an ark of wood. And I will write on the tablets the words which were on those that you broke before, and you shall place them in the ark. And so, I made an ark of setim wood. And when I had hewn 2 tablets of stone like the former, I ascended onto the mountain, having them in my hands. And he wrote on the tablets, according to that which he had written before, the 10 words, which the Lord spoke to you on the mountain from the midst of fire, when the people were assembled. And he gave them to me. And returning from the mountain, I descended and placed the tablets in the ark, which I had made, and they are still there even now, just as the Lord instructed me. Then the sons of Israel moved their camp, from Beerith among the sons of Jachan, into Moserah, where Aaron died and was buried, and where his son Eleazar was installed in the priesthood in his place. From there, they went into Gujrata. From that place, they set out and camped at Jopatha, in a land of waters and torrents. At that time, he separated the tribe of Levi, so that he would carry the ark of the covenant of the Lord, and stand before him in the ministry, and speak blessings in his name, even to the present day. As a result, Levi has no portion or possession with his brothers. For the Lord himself is his possession, just as the Lord your God promised him. Then I stood on the mountain, as before, for 40 days and nights. And the Lord heeded me at this time also, and he was not willing to destroy you. And he said to me, Go forth and walk before the people, so that they may enter and possess the land, which I swore to their fathers that I would deliver to them. And now, O Israel, what does the Lord your God require of you? Only that you fear the Lord your God, and walk in his ways, and love him, and serve the Lord your God with your whole heart and with your whole soul. And that you keep the commandments of the Lord, and his ceremonies, which I am instructing to you this day, so that it may be well with you. Lo, heaven belongs to the Lord your God, and the heaven of heaven, and the earth, and all the things that are within these. Now the Lord was closely joined to your fathers, and he loved them, and he chose their offspring after them, that is, you yourselves, out of all the nations, just as is being proven today. Therefore, circumcise the foreskin of your heart, and no longer stiffen your neck. For the Lord your God himself is the God of gods, and the Lord of lords, a God great and powerful and terrible, who favors no person and accepts no bribe. He accomplishes judgment for the orphan and the widow. He loves the sojourner, and he gives him food as well as clothing. Therefore, you also should love sojourners, for you also were new arrivals in the land of Egypt. You shall fear the Lord your God, and him alone shall you serve. You shall cling to him, and you shall swear by his name. He is your praise and your God. He has done for you these great and terrible things, which your eyes have seen. As 70 souls, your fathers descended into Egypt. And now, behold, the Lord your God has multiplied you to be like the stars of heaven. Thank you for watching. If you like the content on this channel, please press subscribe, the like button or comment below. We'd love to get your tips. See you next time.